James, very good morning to you, sir.
Hello, my friend. I can't believe that video clip you just played, by the way. This guy's meant to be an Oxford student and he can't even rhyme. Proud and ground do not rhyme.
I
What are
know.
they teaching people?
I know. I mean, maybe you could have done it as a haiku or something like that. You know, it would have at least shown that you had some kind of education. I want to tell you this, though. We discovered something brilliant yesterday. I don't know if you were able to hear it, but we've discovered what's wrong with Keir Starmer. We've diagnosed him as suffering from mythomania, right, which is apparently a psychological condition characterised by a compulsive and habitual tendency to lie, often with no clear benefit or motive. That's him,
I mean,
in a nutshell.
that sounds pretty good. I mean, unfortunately, that's probably not limited to him in the House of
No.
Commons. I remember Benjamin Disraeli was once in trouble because he used unparliamentary language and accused half of the House of Commons of being liars.
Right.
The Speaker said, "You've got to take that back." He said, "OK, half of the House of Commons aren't liars." It was very clever.
Very good. I love that sort of, jousting that goes on. You've worked in Downing Street. I mean, can you possibly, with a straight face, tell me that somebody like Matthew Collins, who is a relatively senior civil servant but a junior figure in government, could, by himself, decide unilaterally to not consider the Crown Prosecution Service important enough to give them an answer to a question that they'd asked him, and without any reference to his boss, the National Security Advisor, without any reference to the Foreign Office or indeed to Downing Street or the Prime Minister's office or the Prime Minister himself, he's decided to give an answer to them which allows a case against two spies in Parliament to be dismissed?
No. No.
It's a straight answer.
It's completely ludicrous. This is completely insane. And I think it's people who want to dive into some of the weeds on this should follow a great man called Luke de Pulford on Twitter or X about this. Who's I think got to the heart of this, the sort of smoking gun, the idea that this was nothing to do with any of the political people, nothing to do with Jonathan Powell, who is, let's remember, he's a special advisor, he's a Labour person, a Labour figure, or Keir Starmer or anybody else in Downing Street. Because in a version of evidence that this man gave, he gives the Labour government's 3 C's of compete and challenge and cooperate or whatever, which is meant to be the basis of their China policy. So he's essentially used language from the Labour Party manifesto in a newer version of this document that is supposed to be non-political and only based on the assessment of the previous Conservative government. So if that's making people drone off and switch off, let's just get to the heart of this. The government is lying.
Yes.
They are lying through their teeth. And let's always remember, it's not always the crime, it's the cover-up. And I think this will bring heads to roll eventually.
I think there's no question about that. And I mean, I said this morning when Poppy Coburn was in, that, unfortunately, they're trying to kind of, obfuscate and filibuster this story to the point where people just aren't interested, because it is a very confusing and slightly kind of dull actual, revelation that you finally get to. But as you say, right to the point, the bottom line is they've lied about it. They continue to lie about things. They continue to excuse themselves and fail to answer things. And there's clearly a problem with Jonathan Powell. He is clearly a very important man in our government, and yet he is not answerable to the British public. He's never in front of any committee that I've ever seen, and he's a sort of shadowy figure. This is a guy who sold off the Chagos Islands, after all. This is a guy who was part of Tony Blair's mafia and still part of Tony Blair's mafia. I think he should be gone.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, it's very, very dangerous. It's a guy who's part of something for a long time called the 48 Club, which is, without wanting to libel people, a group of people who are very, 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 very sympathetic towards the Chinese Communist Party. Let's be clear. They are not our friend. As we've discovered from recent revelations, the Chinese Communist Party is the greatest threat to world peace. It possibly could grow into the greatest threat that the world, certainly the West, has ever faced. It's huge, it's powerful, it's rich, it's evil, it's technologically advanced, it has absolutely no scruples or morals at all. It kills and sterilizes people in its own population. It will do anything for more and more power, and we are mad if we don't address this. And as you said as well, this guy Powell, not only is he kowtowing to China, he gave away sovereign British territory that we discovered yesterday is now being carved up along with the Indians, and they're going to put all kinds of listening and communication posts nearby to the American naval base.
Like we said they would,
genius idea.
Like we said they would when it was all going through, and we said this must not happen because of that possibility that they will now have an opportunity to put, Chinese, listening devices onto sovereign territory that used to belong to us, where we also have a very, very, top secret base.
Look, I think it's very simple. I know we're very short on time, but the Labour Party, as is currently constituted, hates this country. It's quite simple, really. If you voted for them, I'm sorry. Maybe you could be forgiven for being duped because, my party were a bit useless towards the end. But this Labour Party is not even the Labour Party of Tony Blair, who, for all his faults, did seem to like Britain. Yeah. Certainly not the Labour Party as was constituted 100 years ago. It is full of people who say things like, "Oh, my stomach churned when I saw us waving the Union flag."
Oh, I know. It's
Labour
awful.
conference.
Absolutely awful.